You come at the king, you best not miss.
In the 2018-2019 season, the pressure was firmly on Ronaldo. Juventus had smashed their club record to bring him in, which in itself was not a bad thing. However, the skeptics declared 9 figures for anyone over 30 was not worth it. Even Ronaldo can't justify that. But this was still Cristiano Ronaldo, and in his final season with Madrid, he had been impressive as always, averaging more than 1 goal contribution per match in the league, showing that he was far from slowing down. And when he arrived at Juventus, his stellar form continued, and leading up to the first leg against Atletico Madrid on the 20th of February, he had scored 19 goals and provided 8 assists in just 24 league matches. An impressive return. But here's the thing, Juventus really didn't care about his league form. That's not what he had been brought in for after all. They had won the previous 7 Scudetti on the trot without him. It was the cup with the big ears they had craved, having not won it in more than 2 decades. That was the sole reason they brought in Ronaldo, Mr. Champions League, who had finished as its top scorer for the 6th consecutive season during his last season with Los Blancos. The man who was at the time already the all-time leading Champions League scorer and second on the list for assists. But things had not gone so smoothly for Ronaldo in the Champions League with Juventus thus far. In his 5 matches, he had scored only 1 goal in a 2-1 loss to United, provided 1 assist in a 2-1 loss to Young Boys, and another in a win against Valencia. Add to that his sending off just 29 minutes into his debut against Valencia, and Mr. Champions League start had been underwhelming. But his first knockout tie against Atletico Madrid would be the chance to make things right, and a chance to produce one of his most iconic performances. But Simeone's men were no easy task, having won the Europa League the prior season, and sitting second in La Liga. They had also been going big in the transfer market, with the likes of Tamar Lamar, Rodri and Alvaro Morata coming in, and they were just as ready as Juventus to go deep in the competition. If this tie was meant to be the arrival of Ronaldo at Juventus, the first leg brought nothing but frustration for Ronaldo. Juventus started in a nominal 4-3-3 that would often shift into a 2, with Ronaldo drifting infield alongside Mandzukic, while Atleti were in a disciplined 4-4-2. But throughout the encounter, Juventus looked toothless, and despite having the lion's share of possession, they ended with a similar number of shots. But here's the thing, most of Juventus' shots were of extremely low quality. This was because Atleti were willing to be defensively disciplined, and Simeone had lined up 4 natural central midfielders behind the 2 forwards, allowing them to defend extremely narrow and disciplined. The midfield pairing of Partey and Rodri was almost impossible to penetrate, particularly with Griezmann dropping deep in front of them. So Juventus were kept to skeptical shots from range, with 57% from outside of the box, compared to just 38 for Atleti. All of this meant that Atleti finished with double the expected goals of Juventus. And Atleti's deep block lulled Juventus into a false sense of confidence, as they poured more and more numbers into the opposition half to try and get a breakthrough. But this left them looking extremely vulnerable on the transition, and the hard running of both Costa and Griezmann was a consistent threat. Atleti were edging closer. Ronaldo in particular cut a frustrated figure. Throughout the match, he was the only one who looked remotely like a threat for Juventus, firing in as many shots as the rest of the squad combined. He was also a driving force from deep, completing 7 dribbles, again more than the rest of his side combined, as well as completing a joint most 2 key passes in the match. But all of that counted for nothing. In fact, a lot of the blame for the loss was laid squarely on his shoulders. With Atleti ahead, the prospect of a 1-0 defeat didn't look too bad. But on the 83rd minute, a ball broke in the Juventus box and Szczesny had overcommitted, taking him out of the game, and the ball broke to Godin. The angle was tight, and Ronaldo was in the perfect position to close him down and block the shot, preserving the scoreline. But at the last second, he turned his back on the shot, allowing the ball to deflect off his thigh and in. If he had stood strong, the 1-0 scoreline would have held. Instead, the wonder exploded. 2-0, an insurmountable lead. At the end of the first leg, many had written Juventus off. This was a Diego Simeone side, and scoring at least 2 goals against them was simply impossible. But Atletico Madrid had already made one mistake. They had made it personal.
Cristiano, ¿qué? Ahora 5 y a dormir, ¿eh? Cristiano, 5, ¿qué?
Llorar, a Turín, a llorar. Ya está, 2-0, ni manita ni nada, 2-0 y fuera.
Saque la manita
pues adiós, vaya Italia, no vuelva.
Cero calentito de aquí. ¡Ay, pa' Italia!
See, for close to a decade, Cristiano Ronaldo had been the scrounge of Atletico Madrid. In La Liga alone, he had 12 goals in 16 matches against the Los Rojiblancos, while providing 3 assists to boot. In 7 Copa del Rey appearances, he had stroked in a further 6 against them. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. The deepest wounds he had inflicted were in the Champions League. For 4 seasons in a row, his Real Madrid sides had been responsible for knocking Atletico Madrid out of the competition. To twist the knife further, one of the occasions was the 2014 final, where he provided a goal and an assist in a 4-1 win when it had been looking like Atleti would be winning their first Champions League. In 14-15, he assisted the only goal over 2 legs to secure Madrid a last-minute win. In 15-16, he dispatched the 5th penalty in another Madrid derby Champions League final. And in the 16-17 season, his first leg hat-trick effectively dumped Atleti out of the competition at the semi-final stage. Atleti's resentment for him grew year by year. And from the very first minute, it was almost a coordinated attack from the Atleti fans and players. Every time he got onto the ball, cheers rang around the stadium, and every time he touched the ball, an Atleti man was in close pursuit, paying him as much physical attention as possible. When that wasn't enough, Atleti were more than happy to hack at him and bring him down, and if the opportunity presented himself, leave a little bit extra on him. His frustration was taking over, and before the half, in response to the Atleti jeers, he held up 5 fingers to the fans, 1 for each Champions League he had won. Atleti's frustration tactics were working, and this would spill over after the match. As Ronaldo walked through the media zone, he declared, Atleti's club president, Enrique Cerezo, hit back saying, Cristiano Ronaldo has not won 5 Champions Leagues at all, but only 3. The remaining 2 against Atleti, he did not really win them, arguing that Ronaldo had been a passenger in his 2 Champions League final wins against Atletico Madrid, and adding more fuel to Ronaldo's fire. Between the 2 legs, Ronaldo had gone goalless in 3 matches, increasing doubts around a possible comeback. But there was one man who never even felt a glimmer of that. Ronaldo ushered a rallying call to the Juventus faithful. On Tuesday night, let's think positively, let's believe. It's possible, but we need your help to make the stadium look good and beautiful. Be everything together, everyone together. These are the great nights, the fantastic ones, the Champions League nights. The team is confident of playing a great game, and I am too. To the fans I say, think positive, let's believe. Get ready to come back. Allegri had changed things completely formationally from the first leg. Gone was the 4-3-3, and now instead it was a 3-4-1-2 with Spinazzola and Cancelo operating as genuine wing-backs. Simeone had stuck with a 4-4-2, but with Arias in for Felipe Luis, which meant that Juanfran had to take up the left-back role, while Thomas Lemar came in for Partey, allowing Saul to reprise a more central role, whilst Morata was in for Costa. Ronaldo started like a man possessed. With so much conviction, it was almost as if he had decided it would simply be his night before the match. Gone was the slow, pensive build-up from the first leg, as right from the off, Ronaldo dropped deep left, looking to get past men to create for his teammates. And as early as the 4th minute, he made the difference. The corner was swung in and the ball broke, and Ronaldo lunged at the ball at the same time as Oblak. He got a touch, and it fell to Chiellini, who buried it. But it was ruled out for a foul on Oblak. An early controversial call, as Juventus players argued that Oblak was not actually in control of the ball. But no matter, Ronaldo had tasted blood. If in the first leg, Atleti were in an aggressive 4-4-2 mid-block, things had changed slightly in this match, as they were happy to sit deeper. This block had been effective in preventing progression in the first leg, when Juventus used a 4-4-2. As with the fullbacks high, the front 2 could push to press, making the central pass difficult. Or they could sit deeper, ensuring that they weren't overloaded by the midfield 3. If the ball went wide, it could be a 2 versus 2 in that region as well, and this had made Juventus look slow and stodgy. But now, the back three always gave them options, and both Emre Can and Chiellini were aggressive whenever they received the ball, pushing high quickly to try and get past Atleti's front two and face up the midfield double pivot. They would now naturally have a 3 versus 2 advantage, and whenever a pivot came out to press them, Bernardeschi or Matuidi would be free between the lines to turn and face the goal. Bernardeschi in particular was a nightmare for Simeone, consistently finding spaces to wreak havoc. To deal with this, much like in the first leg, Simeone contracted his midfield 4 to be extremely narrow, trying to make it a 4 versus 3 through sheer compactness. But Juventus had spotted an early weakness, one that Ronaldo would look to exploit. Arias at right back was the only defender who was not a regular starter, and Juventus looked to pounce on this. With Atleti so narrow, Spinazzola effectively operated as a left winger due to a lack of Atleti pressing higher up the pitch. And on his Champions League debut, in these 1 versus 1 situations he was fearless, attacking Arias consistently to clip in a pass or even cut in on his stronger right foot. But Ronaldo could exacerbate this, as he often took up this position between the centre-back and Arias. So whenever Arias looked to close down Spinazzola, Ronaldo could be found. Atleti were struggling. Koke began to move wider to try and compensate for this, but Juventus switched to a wide triangle to maintain that overload, meaning that even when the widest two were covered, he could make the run through the defense to still get the space. But despite getting into these positions, the breakthrough did not look remotely close. See, Juventus were falling into the same pitfalls as the first leg. In that encounter, Juventus had taken turns between Ronaldo dropping wide left and Mandzukic doing the same, meaning they could look light in the box, particularly considering the aerial strength of Godin and Jimenez. So Ronaldo adapted. As the match progressed, he spent less and less time on the flanks, but moved centrally with his partner Mandzukic. But despite effectively having 2 towers in the box, backed up by Bernardeschi, and Matuidi flooding the box when possible, and a high quantity of supply from out wide, Juventus struggled. Jimenez and Godin were too tall themselves, and too wily to boot. Ronaldo still prowled though, searching for a weakness. And then, he spotted it. So often, Juventus still overloaded that left flank, now with Chiellini rather than Ronaldo being the third point in the triangle, and Atleti would be forced across to reduce the gap between Arias and Jimenez. This left Juanfran, a natural right back, exposed down the left-hand side. Juventus and Ronaldo's plan crystallized. And then, Bernardeschi picked up the loose ball and attacked down the left with Spinazzola. Ronaldo pulled onto Juanfran and awaited the chance. Like he had done for years, Ronaldo rose. He planted the header so firmly that Juanfran almost went into the net with it. 1-0 Juventus, 2-1 on aggregate. Mr. Champions League was threatening to live up to his nickname. Juventus were energized, and just before the break they enacted their plan once again. Even closer. The halftime whistle sounded. The game was in the balance, but an equalizer from Atleti would leave Juventus needing 3 goals in one half due to the away goal. If in the first half Ronaldo began to take control early, in the second he fully wrestled it. He almost created an early chance with Atleti just about escaping. But in the 48th minute, Atleti had a rare foray forward, and a wayward switch floated across the pitch. Ronaldo intercepted on his chest and found Spinazzola down the outside. The wingback, like he had all match, took on Arias before turning back in. He played it infield, and once again Atleti defended narrow, with all 10 outfield players between the width of the box and 9 of the 10 in their own third. Emre Can advanced high and fired the pass into Ronaldo. Sensing the pressure, Ronaldo instantly relayed the ball out wide to Cancelo. Ronaldo did not have the time to find himself at the back post on a weaker fullback, and was stuck between the centre-backs, an unenviable position. But as Cancelo crossed, it became clear. Ronaldo had identified an impossible space between the two. He rose. The cross wasn't the paciest, and Ronaldo had to generate his own power on the header. Jan Oblak, arguably the best keeper in the world at the time, made an incredible save. But years of honing his goal-scoring abilities meant Ronaldo instinctively knew what was a goal and what wasn't. He appealed. Moments later, the ref pointed to his watch. Juventus 2, Atletico Madrid 0. Ronaldo 2, Atletico Madrid 2 on aggregate. His confidence was up, and he searched for the winner. Juventus piled on more and more pressure. The match was now one-sided, as Atleti looked to hold on. Juventus got close consistently, but always missed that final step. It looked like both managers would settle for extra time. But once again, Atletico Madrid had a rare foray forward, with both fullbacks high. A goal for them would mean that Juventus would now need 2 in 10 minutes. Juventus cleared the lines, and Ronaldo controlled the knockdown from Moise Kean expertly. He found Bernardeschi, and with the Atletico defense disoriented, it was Angel Correa struggling to keep up with Bernardeschi. Ronaldo pulled wide in the box, ready to receive and shoot. But Correa, in unfamiliar territory, made a fatal error. Ronaldo knew instantly. He placed the ball on the spot, and Atletico delayed the kick as long as they could, the pressure increasing on Ronaldo's shoulders with each passing second. Eventually, Atleti cleared the box. What pressure! Ronaldo had completed his most iconic comeback. For the 5th season in a row, a Ronaldo side dumped Atletico Madrid out of the Champions League. And Ronaldo once again solidified himself as Mr. Champions League. If you enjoyed this video, check out the rest of our iconic performances series, starting with this one, documenting Messi's most iconic match. And this video was made possible by my Patreons, so a big shout out to them. If you want more videos like this, head on over to patreon.com/footballmadesimple and get early access to more videos like this.